Let's watch Democratic star Jasmine Crockett sound off on Donald Trump and how apparent it is now that Project 2025 is indeed his agenda, despite the pushback that MAGA and Trump tried to give to saying, oh, he didn't have any idea what it was. So I've lined just a couple of these clips up and we can knock them out one by one with the needed context.
We're going to do away with federal interest in having a diverse workplace?
Yeah, I mean, it was a part of Project 2025. And as we know, at least two of the people that Trump has currently selected to be in his administration, they are authors of Project 2025. So as many times as y'all yelled, I yelled that Project 2025 is his only plan, because he said, no, I know nothing about it and it's not my plan, people just believed him. But we see how that is playing out.
It's kind of funny, actually, how vehemently MAGA would defend Trump, saying, oh, he has no idea what Project 2025 is. He'll not do that. He would never, despite having multiple authors in Project 2025 at the time lined up for cabinet appointments, of whom he's now appointed, like Thomas Homan, for instance, despite him having spoken at Heritage events all throughout his campaign, and the owner of Heritage and the main creator of Project 2025 saying that Trump indeed worked with him on it. And now it seems to be happening through these appointments, through other appointments, through the people that he's putting in his administration. Like Roosevelt, also, he's going to do Schedule F and appoint loyalists in terms or in place of bureaucrats. Really, most of what was in Project 2025 was openly in Trump's plans, but there's a couple things that they knew would be scary for people to stomach, and they did receive negative backlash from the people who did indeed read it. So they decided to deny, and now they can just do it in silence and say they never did, because most people just heard Project 2025, especially in terms of MAGA, who just heard it and then wanted to defend them. They never read what was in it. So if they don't hear the name, they won't actually know it's happening.
And not pretend as if, you know, these white tears, this white fragility that we are experiencing is anything other than that, and that it's not about equity. It's about making sure that we can have the likes of the people that have been elevated into Trump's administration, who we know are not qualified, while skipping over qualified black men that, yes, I may disagree with, but I think we can all say that Byron Donalds, as well as Senator Tim Scott, are more qualified than almost every single person that has been put into this cabinet. But they are also diverse. They are also black. And so they have been skipped over. And that is the type of life that they want us to have in this country, is one in which, even if you're mediocre, even if you are unqualified, but you are white, that will be enough.
This part is really interesting to me because I think it speaks to a bit of the sociology that exists on the right and an underlying racial bias that I think as a society it would be smart for us to target and kind of like get rid of, where when a black person gets a job or gets appointed to a high-level position, the right especially hyper fixates on qualifications. It's, oh, let's make sure they're qualified. Let's make sure they're not DEI hires taking qualified white people's jobs. And Kamala Harris's qualifications were questioned despite her working in every level of government. And then they say, oh, it's not about race. It's just we want the most qualified person. But then when it comes to a white person getting a job, there's not this fixation of qualifications from the right. It's not even a conversation you hear. I haven't heard or seen anyone anywhere, any single right-winger come out against Trump for any of his picks as unqualified, or as Jasmine mentioned, state how there's much more qualified black men that he's skipping over for some of these positions, despite objectively multiple of Trump's picks being questionable at best in terms of qualifications and outright egregious at some of the worst. So this is why this double standard that exists racially shows you that this racial bias still exists. This is how racism is bred, right? Subconsciously. This is Trump actually doing what MAGA claims that DEI does for black people, but they don't care subconsciously because it's for white men that he's doing it for.
They are trying to dismantle our civil rights in front of us. And it's really, really sad. And so I am hoping that we will be united, not only in the House, but in the Senate. And it would be nice if we could find the backbone of some Republican to stand with us, hopefully one that is of color. And the final point that I'll make is that the biggest beneficiaries of DEI as well as affirmative action have been white women. So at least maybe one white woman can stand with us Democrats and make sure that we stop this harmful and divisive rhetoric that we see happening, that they are now trying to turn into actual bills.
These kind of provisions that Republicans want to attack go beyond just Black people, but also beyond how Republicans try to paint them as handing out jobs to unqualified Black people. That's not what DEI is. DEI is understanding the value in diversifying thought among qualified candidates. It's understanding the value in looking for talent where others may not. And this tends to help any marginalized group, right? Which is why the party dominated by white men, a race and sex that has never really been marginalized, is the party to have an issue with it. It truly comes down to this kind of like inherent paranoia of losing their grip on power in this country, essentially where all this white fright nonsense comes from, right? Like Great Replacement and all these other insane ideas of brown people taking their place. So, I mean, who knows, right? These kinds of things will undoubtedly, unfortunately, take a blow. Since Trump did win the election, Republicans took the Senate and it looks like they're getting the House. But as Jasmine stated, our best hope is that there will still be some, at least enough to block the more insane Trump measures in terms of Republicans who actually still value the core things that make us Americans.